Welcome, everybody. We're back here with another episode of the Max Rounds 30 podcast where there is no overtime. I'm joined as usual by Coy from MTU Esports, M&M's, otherwise known as Jeff from Dust 2, and I'm Jacob from UWW Esports. In 30 minutes, we'll be covering all of this week's North American CSGO content. So we'll be opening off this week with some pleasant discussions as we have Premier Playoffs starting today as the time of recording. Hopefully we'll be getting this episode out really quickly, but there have been some changes to the bracket since we last talked about it last week. We had kind of touched on the idea of some things. Also, let me start the timer because my brain is inverted, but there have been a few changes regarding the playoff bracket since we last talked about it. Notably, I think we were discussing about how, will ESEA decide to push in some new teams for, whether it be Oceanus or ChocoCheck, but what ended up happening is we did get a confirmation that both Extra Salt would not be in Premier Playoffs and OCG would also not be in Premier Playoffs. So they have been replaced by GGPR and Recon 5. So this was also a little bit of a talking point too. So Jeff, I'll pass it to you because there's been a little bit of discussion on was it like a map differential thing or whatever, but...
Well, what they sort of just did was they just took the top team from Group A and Group B and said, you're now in playoffs, which ultimately, some people jawed about it, especially people who were, affected by it, which I think that would have been Rise who missed out on playoffs as a result of that. But at the same time, you can't really blame ESEA because it's not their fault or their prerogative. It's not, they have no control over the fact that the two teams that pulled out were both in Group A. And honestly, choosing the two best teams from both groups to fill out playoffs is probably results in the best playoff situation. So, it's like some people were kind of confused. They had to reseed the bracket because they fucked up the bracket, I think, again. But ultimately, everything kind of came together. And I think this is the most reasonable outcome for playoffs is having GGPR and Recon 5 in playoffs.
Yeah. So I guess the question then there is, do you think that they have a chance? And Coy, I'll let you expand on that.
Yeah, so with GGPR and Recon 5 coming in, obviously losing Extra Salt is a huge blow, I guess, in terms of overall team quality. Like, they're obviously just a tier above most of the other teams in playoffs to begin with. But GGPR and Recon 5 in particular definitely has a chance to pull off some upsets here that I think people are maybe discounting. So, because just recently in one of the Cash Cups, they lost 2-1 to Bad News Bears, and one of those maps went to OT or something, and they lost 19-17. So there's definitely the ability for an upset, and I wouldn't say they're walkover picks or anything by any means.
Yeah, they did get smashed in the most recent Cash Cup, but ultimately, it's still a good team with good players. I think they will have a pretty fair fight against teams like RBG. They'll probably beat ChocoCheck and maybe GGPR. I definitely see them struggling though against Triumph and Bad News Bears though. One thing I think the two more interesting tale of the two is GGPR because we didn't really get to see a lot of them after they added in Shawniak. So they could be the surprise smash hit of playoffs. It's unlikely, but you would just hope that they've been spending this time doing reps on the server and trying to integrate in Shawniak, because if they've just been sitting around maybe playing FPL or whatever, I just hope that GGPR hasn't really been big chillin' because we haven't really seen them in any Cash Cups, so it kind of makes me wonder what their match fitness is going to be in playoffs. Now they've been called up so suddenly. I don't know. What do we think about GGPR's match fitness?
Go ahead.
Actually, no.
Go ahead, Jacob.
Okay, all right. Well, we'll just bump into each other a little bit on that one. I was gonna say I'm a resident in Shawniak stan a little bit, just simply because I casted the last time I think they played, or actually I think it was the last time that they played a league match. So it was their last premier match that they played, and they played incredibly well. And they also do have a nice 2-0 registered dub over OCG from, I believe that was Spring Cash Cup 2. So I think GGPR has that kind of dark horse kind of look, because that change was made right at the end of the season when they didn't really have a chance to really, you know,
Do-
they didn't have a chance to get
yeah.
into playoffs really. So they, now that they've got this change, and it seems to have made a pretty good difference having Inshaniak on the AWP. So I think it could be like one of those things where Triumph might actually be in a little bit of danger.
I wouldn't push it that far. I mean, I do feel like it's going to be the Cynic show again. He'll probably put on a clinic, but I mean, they could. I don't think they could take a map, but if they do take a map, I wouldn't be like, "Whoa, that's outrageous!" Like unbelievable scenes coming out from GDPR. But I mean, it shouldn't happen, but it could happen if that makes sense.
I'm a little bit on the other side of things. So I definitely think that Triumph is going to be a favorite in most of the maps that they play, just regardless. But the way that GGPR has sort of operated is they've kind of been pretty, stringy in performances. And by adding in Shaniak in, you've just added kind of a honeymoon period that's going to start and kick in right during playoffs, which I think is going to be a huge boon to their success. And even if they don't win or anything, I think that overall it's still going to be a very valuable experience, this playoffs experience for them. And so when next season rolls around or something like that, I think that GGPR will definitely be in like, a top 5 seeding overall in the league by far.
Speaking about some seedings really quick as well, since we actually didn't mention it yet, but we'll kind of touch on the bracket a little bit, just kind of go over the matchups that we do have. They are all starting today, I believe, actually. But to open up, we have Bad News Bears versus Recon 5. That one will be on the main ESL channel. We also have, it might be on ESLB, actually, don't quote me on that. But then we also have High Coast versus Mythic as the next one. Then we have ChocoCheck versus RBG. Then we've got that Triumph versus GGPR. So now that we've kind of touched on that Triumph versus GGPR match a little bit, let's back it up and let's go talk about that Bad News Bears versus Recon 5 matchup and kind of figure out, do we think that Recon 5, I mean, they pushed them pretty well in that was a Cash Cup, I believe.
Yeah.
Now,
do we
see,
think
you
there's
say
some upside
that
potential?
you do say that, but then again, on the other side of the argument, you do have the most recent Cash Cup where I'm looking it up right now. They got absolutely shit on by Pain and Triumph, where it was like, I think in course of 4 maps they won something like 30 rounds or less. So I don't really know. I mean, I personally I like this squad, but I just don't think they're like in that. I think they're like towards the bottom of what we would call like a playoff lineup. And I mean, there's a reason they didn't qualify to playoffs. Like I don't really see it going anyway, but Bad News Bears just kick open the door and start blasting. Like I see it to be a quick. I think it would be a quick 2-0. The only like factor for me that could potentially sway it is if we see like Cobra and Saturn just like blow up. Like if they have season best performances, things could get interesting. But even then, I don't know if the team necessarily has like the firepower, the leadership, or the really just like gumption to take it over Bad News Bears, because Bad News Bears are the best team in playoffs. So I just don't really see it.
Yeah, I think that again, I definitely think still that there is 100% a world in which Recon 5 is both on their A game, and Bad News Bears isn't like has been known to have like inconsistent times. And it wouldn't surprise me if 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 something's off on that team today for some reason or something like that and things go awry. Like it's definitely possible. I agree that they're the favorites, but I don't think that Recon 5 is going to be a walkover, to be honest.
Yeah, I could kind of, I kind of agree with that because, like, I think it really just comes down to whether or not Recon 5 decide they want to play today, or if
Yeah.
they decide that they don't want to play today. Because that's what kills them, is that they're massively inconsistent. They've shown highlights throughout the season of being a team that looks like they could be at the top of playoffs, and then they've shown lows that look like they could be in relegation. So when it comes to where they'll actually end up in this matchup, you better hope they bring something, because they're going to be on the big stage, and
Yeah,
this
they need
is their
to
chance.
they need to show up, or they're gonna just get shit on. Like it's not gonna be pretty if their players aren't ready to play, if they're not like if they don't come in with a strategy to beat Janji and
Yeah,
just
but you're
bully
gonna have
him.
playoffs. You're gonna have playoffs, John G.
Yeah,
Playoffs,
the
like,
key. I feel the key to any team beating Bad News Bears in playoffs is you have to bully the ever living hell out of Janji, and we did see that we have started to see that in matches where teams beat Bad News Bears. It's fine Janji, isolate Janji, and just punish Janji with utility. Because if you can neutralize Janji, that usually leaves the whatever bomb site he's defending understaffed, and it kind of opens the door for them to like get things rolling. Because he is far and away like their star. He is their star player. He's the head of the pyramid at the old Bad News Bears house.
Mhm.
So that's the only way I see it, like opening up for them.
Yeah, that's for sure. So if we don't have any more thoughts on that BNB versus Recon 5 matchup, we'll kind of scoot on to the next one. This one, yeah, I don't know. I think we have a very kind of I'd say we have a pretty obvious outcome for as far as how it'll go, but that is the High Coast versus Mythic matchup.
Yeah.
This one is pretty heavily leaning for High Coast. Mythic has kind of struggled their way into playoffs.
I have a hot take.
Yeah. Let me hear
Okay.
it.
All right.
All right.
Hot take alerts.
All
Let's
right.
go.
So here's the thing. All right. So depending on what the map vetoes are, I definitely think that Mythic has a way to make this close. I don't necessarily think they'll take it, but what Mythic has is they have experience, right? They have the ability to read a team pretty well, in the form of Flam, Madren, and High Coast is known for being a tactically readable team, if that makes sense. To put it lightly.
So their
I
tanks are
think,
shit, is what you're saying.
yes, and so if an
Okay.
individual isn't firing on all cylinders, there's definitely a way to exploit High Coast. And if Mythic brings their A game, if Jojo, plugs in his monitor, there's a way for Mythic, and it wouldn't surprise. Okay, it would surprise me if they won. It would, but I have hopes that match will actually turn out to be something special.
I do have to say, like, one of, I guess you could say, the talking points from someone who doesn't really pay attention to Mythic would be like, ever since they got rid of Daff and they brought this ZNF guy in, like, I don't really know what that'll do to the team chemistry. Where I legitimately think ZNF's probably gonna be, I bet he's gonna either top frag for Mythic or be like a top player for them. And so that's kind of what I'm excited for. Is Mythic is literally will look better than they did with Daff because it's ZNF of all fucking people. So like I think ZNF is gonna be the X factor for them because I think he's one of the most capable players on that lineup.
Yeah, you have to keep in mind all four of those players besides JoJo have like seasons of experience together too, and they're all seasoned in their own right with other teams in their past. So like it's basically a team of veterans versus a team that doesn't necessarily have the strongest foundational tactical core. So there's if people are hitting shots and the boomers pull through on the aim side of things, it should be a banger.
It's true. It could be the biggest banger of the night.
I really would like to see Flam just start hitting like some Zywoo shots or something. Like that'd be kind of dope to kind of see the old man break his back a few times with some of those flicks, and it'd be entertaining. I'd like to see Mythic do well, of course. I mean their whole point is to be entertaining, so like of course I'd like to see that, but yeah, I don't know. It's definitely like if High Coast plays how they should play, this shouldn't be a problem. If they somehow, if something just isn't right, then things start to get hairy. And I think that's definitely a fine line that they're going to be running. So, Well, with that, we've got our third matchup, and this one's going to be probably the most like weird
bullshit
because we have ChocoCheck versus RBG. So all day, every day.
Can I take the floor? Can I?
Sure.
All right.
Sure.
So we have two factors of bullshit coming at you right now. Factor number one: the ESIC investigation is not done. We have a leaked recording of some of their old teammates and some of their current teammates in any of the match fixing. I'm not saying anything, but I don't know to what degree the rest of their team is culpable, and I don't know if I'm really comfortable with a team like this being in playoffs until the ESIC investigation's done. Same with OCG. If OCG had ringers on their roster and they weren't idiots, only had 5 players, and they brought some ringers into playoffs, I would have said, I'm not comfortable with OCG playing. Because ChocoCheck is just like, unfortunately, the ultimate farce of a team. They have a fake org, they have fake players, they have players who've never played a match before. You ask 60, who's going to play this week? And he says, I don't know. Maybe Tropical, maybe Phantom, maybe Shrek, who's literally just a dusted.us shit poster. Or maybe fucking Ogre. They're going to bring in a player called Shrek and a player called Ogre, and they're sponsored by a fucking chocolate milk brand, and they say, yeah, we're a real team. Bullshit. You're not a real team. Like, it's like, I want art. Like, I just get the fuck out of my league.
I love it. This is the Jeff
Oh,
that I love to
man.
see.
I'm just so tired of this team. They've been around for so long. They get to playoffs. They do nothing, and now they have banned players on their roster, and they want to believe, yeah, we're trying to make our own brand of chocolate milk. Like, shut the fuck up. Thank you.
You know what? You know what? Thank you very much, Jeff. That was great, and I agree with you 100% because why the fuck are they still like? Yes, they have enough players to technically still be in playoffs, but I feel like if you just like that's got to be like there's got to be some sort of like clause that's got to be like move forward in either the ESIC rulebook or in like the ESEA rulebook that's just like, you know, if you have like a significant chunk of players banned for something that could be a crime that is easy to be, you know, where it's easy for everybody to be involved in some way, then why the fuck is the team still able to be in playoffs? And of course, that's a slippery slope.
Also,
but at the same time,
I don't think it's a competitive lineup either because I don't think they know what 4 players are going to show up tonight. And don't tell me a team's going to be competitive when you're slotting in when you choose between 4 players to fill 2 slots and you don't know what 2 players are going to show up to the server. Like that team's not going to be competitive. I just feel like it's a team like that appeals to like morons because the whole ChocoCheck thing is just offensive to me because you ask them like, "Are you a real org?" And they're like, "We think we're a real org." And it's like, yes or fucking no, like, and it's like, what do you do exactly? It's like we make chocolate milk.
do they even make chocolate milk? I thought they were just like a TikTok
They
with like chocolate milk on it or
their
something.
dream is to make fucking chocolate milk, and I just
That's a troll. There's no way. There's like
no, it's
legitimately
fucking
no way.
But they don't act like it's a troll. Like if they were like, oh, this is a satire account, I'd be like, oh, at least you know your match fixers, but you have some like good banter, like fair fucks. But like they tell like the dumbest player is in North America, like, yeah, we're a chocolate milk drinking company. And it's like, I just want Hex to go fucking sicko mode on them tonight. Does everyone else? I mean, we're pulling for like real talk. We're pulling for RBG, right?
I'm Wiz's #1 fan, so yes, absolutely.
Yeah, and I think they're
RBG.
gonna win too. For like, if you just look at who's bringing what to the table, I think it's gonna be an RBG.
I mean, unless
smash.
Shrek or Ogre like absolutely pop the fuck
Shrek
off.
and Ogre.
I swear to God, if that is what we get in the server, like I think
We
that's
don't-
like. Do we talk about that? What
Check
do we do?
ESEA. Ogre has never played a match on ESEA. We don't know his name. He has a little O instead of he has a little 0 instead of an O. Like
He also has the ChocoCheck logo in it, so maybe he's just.
he could. I mean, that's what I hate too. Is when you've never heard of these random ringers. Like Eclipse had Woohoo, and it's like, how do I know that this isn't like a banned player? Like I know ESEA knows, but how do I know, like in my heart, that this isn't just Retchie, like on his dad's computer? Like,
Homie shows up on his grandfather's PC to play some Counter-Strike.
like no, I'm not
I
Retchie. I'm Reki. Like,
oh no, I hate that. Okay, well, I mean, now that we've covered that we think that ChocoCheck is a farce and they should be annihilated from orbit, we'll move on. And do we want to talk about the Triumph versus GDPR matchup anymore? We did a little bit before.
I'm worried a little bit for Triumph. I know I said basically like if Cynic does Cynic things, they win. But if Cynic doesn't do Cynic things, I'm kind of scared for Triumph. This is gonna be a test. Like this is gonna be like the litmus test for them to see if they can actually do anything in playoffs. Like if they lose to GDPR and get sent to lower bracket, like I don't really have high hopes for them. I think they need to just like crush GDPR and then crush RBG in their next match or whatever to prove that they're like that they want to win the division and go to Pro League.
Yeah, because
I'm glad that I brought. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say because like they are the it's between Bad News Bears, High Coast, and Triumph. Really, those are like the 3 main favorites for that Pro League spot. So
yeah,
I'm just happy, Jeff, that I have brought you over to the side of skeptics when it comes to that matchup. I have sufficiently convinced you that GGPR are not. They have a chance.
Spook
it's
value.
like if you like use your brain, like you see like Cooper, Cynic, Shake Zula, like you see all these players on Triumph, and you're like, well, they obviously beat GGPR. But then it's just like something in like the back of your head is like, are they gonna though? Like, what if they don't? What if they go out in 5th through 8th place? Like, what's going on? Who am I? Like,
Yeah,
is Funny Deer
it's
Team good anymore? Like,
I guess that's like the big
and
spooky factor of
I want. I mean,
yeah.
it's not. I mean, remember the old Triumph was like the #2 domestic squad in North America. It was them versus Chaos, and that was the only action, the hot action going on in North America. Where now it's like I said, I think last week, like I'm concerned about them falling out of the conversation in terms of like as a team that like you think could win, be the top team domestically.
Yeah, and I definitely think, probably next season if they do end up deciding to make any player swaps or anything, like because like we've talked about on the show before how we feel like they could really use like one extra gun basically in some way, some manner, that they just need one one pillar of stability and firepower. And if they somehow got like some X factor player, then they would probably be in the conversation for they'd be much more guaranteed in that pro league
We
picture
do know they have.
conversation.
Do know they finally have money for the first time in their life. What if they just like say fuck it and get like Floppy and OC or Floppy and Zeppa? Sorry,
Well, that'd be kind of bulling.
that'd be fucking boo. Give Shake Zula, Floppy and OC. I mean Floppy and Zeppa, and we're fucking cooking
Yep.
with gas then.
Yeah,
I mean
I'll buy a
Cloud9,
couple jerseys.
and that would
Triumph
basically. I mean that would
sells
no. I
peak
mean that would
merch.
basically fix everything. Like they wouldn't go to the fucking Valorant. Triumph would get 2 world-class players. The Cynic would get to play against. Would get to play with even more experienced pieces. It'd be great.
All right. Well, we've got
It
some
could
brewing
happen.
ideas.
It could happen. It probably won't, but it could happen. So
Yeah.
yeah,
So yeah, we've got hopes for the Funny Deer team. They are our favorite North American domestic squad, I think. Besides our lovely Bears, we are also Bear stands.
are
But
you not an extra salter?
they're not. They're in Europe right now. It's like they're our international homies. We're pushing for them to beat every. They're our last hope for NA in Blast right now. So
Yeah.
we're kind of you there sitting in your Liquid jersey.
God forbid Evil Geniuses ever do anything. Like
Well, they're already qualified, so I mean we'll see them. But they're kind of with
I know,
Mewtwo. I mean,
I for one am incredibly excited for E.G. Mihu. Like he's a good player, but I think I said it like that's like the road to ruin for EG is they're like, well, we have 2 European players, so it's only a short excursion until we have 5 European players. I know I'm
Please
fucking
no.
scared. I'm fucking scared for those guys.
Please
They changed
no.
their logo and they like angered God. Like
Now God is angry. Well, so now that we have sufficiently gone through, I'd say, most of our playoff talks here and our hopes for NA and our dreams and our crush dreams and etc., we can also talk about this week's news with our remaining 7 minutes and 45 seconds left. So to kind of start things out, Eclipse has disbanded. So this has a couple of knock-on effects for relegation, which we'll touch on in a moment. But before we kind of go into that, I think Eclipse disbanding.
a
What are
touching
general ideas on
eulogy,
this?
a touching eulogy for NA's most mediocre squad. I really liked when you had Stellar on the team. I thought he was pretty good. I missed Droid. It was really sad when he got Faceit banned. I thought the player named Woohoo had a pretty funny name because I like to say just Woohoo. I don't think it was right that he doesn't have a first and last name. That's kind of weird. Thanks for giving a better advanced squad a relegation slot. That's very nice of you. Conspiracy time. Robbie, you deleted your Steam account. That's kind of weird for someone who's playing CSGO. I think you might need one of those. Oh, also, if Nero, if you can make a Twitter again, that'd be great. Thank you.
That was amazing.
Yeah.
We've got
Banger.
content here. This is so now that we've got our touching eulogy for Eclipse, yeah, that's this does kind of open up some things as far as the relegation slots go. So now it is Headshot Kings and Recon 5 Black in relegation. So currently relegation is Levitate, Imperium, SKDC, Headshot Kings, Recon 5 Black, the Laws, and then I believe it'll be either
Probably PDHM and Big Chillin' because Pain probably don't lose advanced. I mean, come on.
Big Chillin' kind of spooky though.
I mean, they did get fucking rocked by Pain the first time. So unless they found some like anti-Brazilian spray, like they're not gonna. It's not gonna happen, unfortunately.
Well, yeah, that kind of rounds out our relegation picture for the most part. Now, I guess, we'll kind of dive into that a little bit more because we do want content for our future episodes. But we'll talk about that relegation picture probably next week a little bit more.
The offseason
Um,
is a cruel mistress, yeah.
yeah, so, but with advanced playoffs, that will be continuing again with Big Chillin versus PDHM. And the winner of that matchup will be playing against Pain for the chance to go direct into
Okay, but I just want
Premier.
to know. I just want to know though. Like, let's say Big Chillin and PDHM are in relegation, right? Just without like explaining yourself, which four of those 8 teams make it to Premier this season? Jacob,
I thought we were gonna save that one for next week.
we can go. We can go into depth, but I just want to know, like, without thinking about it too hard. Give me your 4.
Oh, honestly, I would say like I think Levitate, and I definitely think Recon 5 Black. Um, I think the other two are toss-ups for me personally. I'm not quite sure how to feel about those two remaining slots.
I think it's for me. Headshot Kings, Levitate, Recon 5 Black, and Big Chillin right there.
Yeah,
Let's
I
see.
I think it's gonna be Levitate, Headchecking. Yeah, literally
Yeah.
the exact 1-for-1 with you, Jeff.
I mean, it kind of is free. Like, we have SKDC, which is about to fucking die. We have Imperium, which is in the process of dying. Vlas are fine, but I don't. I
I
mean,
don't
they
think
could
Velaz
make it.
quite has. I don't think
Yeah.
Velaz quite has. Like they might be able to pull some upsets, but I don't think they have the consistency of the other
PDHM is
teams.
probably the biggest upset potential because they do have players who have been in Premier before, and it is kind of like a competent it's probably the most experienced team. It's probably like the most experienced of the teams that have been into it because some of those players have actually been to Premier, but I don't know. I mean, relegation always gets kind of weird, you know. I mean, who knows? We may even see
We'll get to
Pain in
see.
relegation. Whoa! No, it's
Whoa.
not. It's not gonna.
Whoa.
Yeah, no,
Didn't happen. Not gonna happen,
yeah,
unfortunately.
I'm just gonna say, where's their direct pro league spot for winning advance? Like, come
One
on.
Pro League slot, please.
Yeah,
I mean, I
right.
don't think Pain are Pro League ready, but yeah, sure.
I don't know,
I think
man.
they're close. I think they're close.
You think? I mean,
They beat Liquid. Just
no.
saying.
Yeah, when they're playing from like Europe and like Ellis Island or whatever. Like, okay.
I think again another hot take here. I think Pain is better than Team One.
Well, that's
That makes me
not even the
that makes me
question.
very sad. They're better than Godsent.
Yeah,
Man,
Well, I mean, with Team One has had like zero success in Europe, so I mean that's not really a hard bar to like.
died for this.
Yeah.
yeah.
Died so Taco.
I hate
Yeah,
this.
died so Taco could take like 4 young Brazilians and just run them into the ground.
Love it. That's my favorite part of Counter Strike is when that happens. So, well, we do have a little bit. We have a little bit more news. Third Impact added Becker as a coach, and
All right, what do we know about Becker, folks?
Literally
Anyone?
nothing.
nothing.
I'm sure he's a really cool guy. Third Impact's done a lot of like good things in terms of like bringing in coaches that frankly I have never heard of, but they turned out to be really capable. And hopefully
Yeah, like
Becker
we
is
don't know
one of
where
those.
Lucid's going yet, if it's still happening. But like what he told me is like it's gonna be like an exciting prospect. It's gonna be an exciting prospect for him. Here's some fast facts. Clear used to play for this advanced team called Front. They were okay. I think their best known player is Rack. Um, Insane told me he's a pretty cool guy. He's a pretty cool IGL. I think he's like 27, so he's not prone to like baby rage or anything, which is good because that squad's very young. So with only knowing like superficial details about him, it's probably a good move. I mean, he's an adult, he's experienced IGL, and he seems to be just a nice human being. Which, I mean, what else do you really want in a coach like these days in North America?
True. You need them to
Yeah.
kind of be that level leadership element.
Yeah,
Which that'll be good. I think it's definitely something we'll have to wait and see if how it proves and how it works out for them, especially on their rise and premiere after going, like they didn't quite make it into the playoff picture this time around, but they definitely did better than they did last year. So we'll see.
yeah.
It's only up from here, except hopefully this time that isn't the phrase we say as the roster slowly dies in
As
the
we
case
say,
of
yeah, as we say, as Imperium just fails to live up to
Yeah, really.
expectations continuously. So with our last story, with a minute left, Payne won a cash cup for the first time in
Welcome to the crew.
2021. Hooray! I
Kind of
know.
expected that to happen at some
Yeah,
point.
I mean, it was like impossible they didn't win unless they like fucked off to Europe or something. But I mean, I don't know. I mean, we've discussed it multiple times. Cash Cups don't really make for like good narrative. Like they don't. You can't squeeze a lot of narrative juice out of this orange. So I mean, they beat Bad News Bears, but I mean, I feel like they're like the two natural rivals if Extra Salt are out of the picture. So I mean, it was gonna happen eventually. Triumph got another third place by smashing Recon 5. Maybe they'll win a Cash Cup one day. They don't really do so good, so hot in those, but yeah, here's hoping for the best for Triumph as in their continued Cash Cup efforts.
Yep, that's for
Yeah.
sure. Well, we've got 20 seconds left.
Oh, I will
Any
say
closing thoughts?
Hang on. Yeah, actually, here's a closing thought. Third Impact, top 6 for the second week in a row. Top 6 doesn't really get you a lot, but that means they had to fight through a lot of weird ass advanced and premier mixes. So I mean, that doesn't mean that like they're better than most like dog water advanced squads. So that's like positive for them.
Well,
Okay.
that's good stuff to know and good things to think about. They've got a little bit of a nice future heading up for them. But with that, we will be ending the show for today. Everybody have a fantastic rest of your day. Enjoy Premier Playoffs, and that'll be a goodbye from us.
Goodbye.